Okay, we're live. Thank you. Sorry for a bit of delay. We had some technical problems. And yeah, so thanks to everyone for being here today in this extremely hot evening in Milan. And yeah, thanks for dedicating it to thinking about some complex issues in our work. So we are oblo and also Experience Design Academy of POLI.design. At oblo, we are hosting these events, which we normally call service design meets, and this would have been 20th of events that we are doing. So we decided to make it special. So this time is the first time that we are treating the topic of user experience design meets AI. We already talked about AI in the past events a few times, but this time, as we feel like there's a lot of talking about how user experience is being influenced by the AI development, so we wanted to go like more in detail about that topic. So we're here in studio with also Venancio and Davide di POLI.design. I don't know if you want to say a couple of words about the Experience Design Academy.
First of all, thank you to share with us the 20th talk that is relevant, and that's a great achievement because this is complex to manage. So congratulations to you, and thank you for hosting us, and also to sharing with us this topic that it's transversal and relevant. The Experience Design Academy is an academy created in POLI.design that deals with experience design, and that maybe started with the course, specializing course in user experience design, then the specializing course in user UI design, and now we have also a master that is user experience psychology in collaboration with Università Cattolica. So it's postgraduate teaching and learning platform, but also is a consultancy and an opportunity also to do, let's say, long life learning for company and organization. We create together the academy many years ago now, and Davide is the co-author of this academy.
Yeah, we are basically focused on user experience for professionals. We have some sort of observatory. We developed some sort of observatory in the world of experience and the way professionals approach experience, and also in the way AI impacts the market. And we have something to say.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, so on our side, Alessandro, you want to present yourself?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Alessandra Del Nero. I'm head of UX here at oblo. So yeah, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, and I'm Yulia Spinova, partner at oblo, and yeah, some using different titles. Today is gonna be about AI practice lead, let's say. So like doing a lot of experimentation and leading the development of our framework and tools that we apply to the design of the AI-based services, which yeah, you can see around and we'll talk about. So to start the day, or evening, we actually wanted to set a bit the context. So to talk about what is happening in the AI impacting UX field. So these are some trends which we extracted actually from applications, because I was reviewing the applications for a global conference where there were about like 90 applicants describing how they're working with AI nowadays. So looking at what people are struggling, what are they describing as interesting best practices, we have extracted these some things which I think are very relatable to the different contexts. So first of all, the change of the process, but that of course it's about more process than outputs. Of course, people are still creating the digital products and experiences, but the way that designers work is maybe changing in some situations, so that apparently we see that production can become more automated, but the value is changing and moving to the execution, from execution to strategy, and the so in the beginning of the process, in the strategy, and then also seeing what is happening after that. So that's like from the, how we normally talk about the pixel mine is closing and less pixel pushing happening. This is also connected to the boundaries blurring in general, so that it's not only designers affected, but everyone now is trying to understand what they can do with AI, and of course, the fact that, of course, here the vibe coding, other platforms that are permitting people to generate prototypes fast is making both like product managers, developers, whoever doing designs, designers doing code, and things are becoming more and more fluid. So some skills, of course, are more democratized, but also it's challenging the roles, identities, what we're doing. And it's also connected to the organizational adoption. So the fact that how do organizations and team manage the workflows when exactly designers can also do some code, do some other things, people who are doing code now are creating the prototypes and so on. So it's becoming all a bit difficult. And there are, of course, also a lot of problems beyond that, beyond like defining who does what. It's also about like different levels of access to the tools. We still see in the organizations every day we go there and people are saying why they have this license of Copilot and these people don't have, and all the things like that. And of course, different levels of also literacy and so on. So this is becoming very difficult and creating a lot of fragmentation and challenges. As we said, so AI speeds mostly the prototyping part, but strategic thinking maybe less, because we still need to think, and that happens a lot with the human speed and not the technological one. And that becomes actually the risk also, to try to reach too fast the outputs and not spend enough time in the beginning. And some people are talking about this idea of intent layer. So in some way creating also artifacts which are documenting and elaborating what is happening, why some AI outputs are done in one way or another. Then another issue is, of course, about trust, that it's not necessary that people always trust AI, of course, in these systems. So often people also talk about like high-stake domains in like medical or law or other fields where they treat a lot of data, of personal data and information of people, or where reliability is very important. What we can do, of course, in that sense of using, first of all, AI tools in our processes, and then also how to use them and how to offer them to the final user. So when not to automate these things. So this is also another issue. We see a lot of issues with research. So that was already happening from COVID, when everything became digitalized and we started to do remote research. And it's, of course, not the same thing. Now, of course, well, some people try even to do the synthetic users and do research with some AI interviewers to speed it up. But even if you don't do that, there's always this temptation to accelerate the synthesis, to maybe not get that much time in this very complex moment. Like, we believe that synthesis is one of the most complex moments, of course, in this work. And of course, on one hand, again, it's becoming more accessible, because maybe before some people didn't have time to do it properly and didn't do it at all. But at the same time, it's of course a huge challenge on how to find this right balance and how to preserve the human interpretation there. Another issue is like also measuring like your own outcomes, and in general, let's say there is less applications and things happening on like how do we measure what AI is bringing into this process, and whether we measure at all. Often the things are stopping at the time. You can see so many slides in this conference, like 10 times faster, 20 times faster, whatever times faster. Then also, how do you really measure how much faster? But then besides the faster, is it better? How are people feeling when they are working? What are the quality of the outcomes? Can we really say that these faster outcomes are better? So this is really about like how can we think about what matters, and how can we apply also our tools to help understand how to measure the right things. This one I want to keep it as the like personal mantra, so that non-adoption is a valid option. Again, putting things together about the trust issues, some complexities, accelerating the flows. In some cases, people in some organizations where actually they say it's really tricky, they say that maybe in some ways, in some moments of process conscious non-adoption, so saying that this should be done with human effort, and we really put a lot of value on this part, is also an option, and people can do that. And exactly, especially when you do properly the risk assessment and the judgment regarding these issues. And another big topic is, of course, that designing for AI is different from designing with AI. There's a lot of talking about designing with AI, maybe less. So everyone's trying to accelerate or do it more efficiently and not like to catch up with others. And less is about how do we design AI-based services, experiences, and so on. This is something that we've been tackling actually at oblo for a long time, and that's the basis of this framework that we created, which we call OO. So it's the extension, let's say, of Double Diamond to include also this outcomes phase, which we think is very important in the AI application because of exactly these complexities that we have been discussing. And this framework is accompanied by the, of course, like activities, research, and everything, but a set of tools. So people who are here in the room can see also the poster with all the tools, and for others we will share then also Miro, where we also put that, and it's also online. So these tools help us to think about exactly these aspects of how to design AI-based services, but also the workflows. And today we're actually gonna apply, like we applied one of the canvases to map the process before, and that's something that we're gonna discuss during the talk. But besides these general global trends, we also have some trends which are coming from the research done specifically in Italy. So
yeah, I'm sorry, this is in Italian, but maybe it's understandable.
We didn't ask AI to translate. So
yes, exactly.
This is the last part things we have to do. So as we said before, as Experience Design Academy, the second year we create this, let's say, way to verify the impact of UX in Italy. Is the state of UX in Italy. This is the second edition. I don't know how many of you had the chance to participate. So thank you for the contribution, and I hope in the future maybe many of you will also take part. Yeah, the question, it's interesting because the first edition we received 1,000 answers. This second only 580s. That is a huge number. We realize because also, for example, Figma, when they share their trend, they have more or less 400 answers.
Oh, wow.
So worldwide.
Wow.
And they create this wonderful trend. So the idea is that this is a consistent piece of work, and we hope to share with you. This is, let's say, open source. We are finalizing the storytelling because every number has to be, let's say, framed and reviewed. And as soon we will release the PDF version. We know we are old school. We create a PDF with things to read and with some graphs. But also sometimes you can choose to read and to deepen the concept. But also we will deal with the data because we made a sort of an intelligent system to be browsed. Okay.
Yeah, tonight we are sharing the early insights. So the slides are early as well. So we will share with you what we are wanting.
So don't blame in relation to the aesthetical quality and the UI. Maybe something can be made better. But for example, this white screen is. Okay, is an interesting thing. So we try to let's say verify in real because this is the new part of the activity. So because we added this section about adoption of AI, and we asked to all the respondents to let's say declare where they use often, sometimes or never the AI. And as Julia was said before, there is someone, huge part, let's say we don't use AI. We can name it dinosaur, we can name it out of, let's say, I don't know the way, but you can see here the idea that many people is trying to use AI, but the things that is really strange, and this is, let's say, more or less the process we verified there, many people is using AI to discovery and research. Why? Because this is more easy and the first accessibility point, and we deal with AI through text generation. So the idea is that we use the AI as a chatbot with which we conversate, generating output. And the reality is that we are not using AI in a proper way or in the most advanced way. Because if we move to the delivery stage where coding and delivery are the most important part, you can see here the evident party, people that don't use because they think the delivery is not necessary, but also there is really few of us that adopt AI in a proper way. And these numbers are relevant, and we can browse also the situation about the, let's say, we made the same visualization and we clustered by year of experience. I pass through quickly. So this is people with 7-10 years experience that usually we name, let's say, they are not junior, they are not senior or leader, but maybe middle senior. And this middle senior is the ones that is fascinated by AI, but still they remain on the first part in user research, in, let's say, synthesis and ideation and concept stage. You can see the adoption. When we pass to the CX and UX strategists, this is one of the things that also Julia said before. So today, manager and other people is using AI thinking that design can be substituted by their mindset, but the reality is that the output is not so good. But still, it's interesting the fact that the picture remains mostly the same. The UX researcher, obviously, they do research, they don't do execution and whatever, so the picture change a bit, but...
Yeah, something that we need to add is that in our research, we mapped the profiles and we created some spider charts with a balance in between these pillars of the design craft. So discovery, research, pitches, and delivery, and of course, labels matter as they matter, and UX researchers basically overlap sometimes with UX researchers and with service designers as well.
Yeah, this is an Italian specific situation, but also I do think is international, because you say you use your label, I'm AI specialist, and today is one of the most diffused. But AI specialist, you don't use the design tag. That is something that maybe will characterize yourself. So this is also a matter of label, because when the doctor became, let's say, advanced in the career, he remains a doctor. But when a design doctor in medicine, okay? But when a designer advances in career, change label and then forget that he's a designer as a, let's say, technical and culturally speak. So as you can see here, also let's say the UX researcher adopt AI also for user testing, and for sure someone do user testing, but this is something that is also disappearing now. UX designer, you can see, is same of that, and product designer is a bit more in concept stage and ideation. And the interesting picture is that the adoption is wider, stronger, more, let's say, diffused with people that works abroad or with international client. I don't know why. Maybe in Italy we are sort of you have an answer. This is
it. To me the clear picture that downstream the process they have customer. So internationally there is budget for using that. In Italy they just use a free account.
This is a question. This is a question that we need to insert. Many AI advanced user, they pay by themselves the AI tool. Internationally, they provide a package of, let's say, token, but maybe today the problem is that they will finish in 15 seconds. So the problem, the cost is one of the barrier of the adoption, but then will become something that we need to discuss, because also it's a sustainability model about the AI. At the moment, is always, or it seems like a free option, and this generates this kind of diffusion, but then we need to discuss sustainability.
By the time you release the survey, the delivery was not mature at all. It's where you had the lesson.
Yeah, but this is something that we will discuss with the next chart, because here there is something in which there is, okay, how the AI is impacting on your job, and many people say, okay, I'm slowly changing I'm adapting myself to the AI, but the 78% of the UI designer, they say change a lot. So the things is that if you go in deeper with some sub section of the target user, you will see, let's say, radical changes. For example, I made a different task and automated almost everything. Is the UX researcher the one that, let's say, automate the most the things. 81% of the people say AI changed the things. So still now with the coding capability and whatever, AI changed the way I do the things. Many of them declare that they are positively affected by AI. I don't know. By myself, I don't have any free time given by the AI, and I only multiplicate the task I do. And this is maybe the problem many senior has within the AI adoption. But okay, these are still data that are interesting. The problem is the quality of the results, and you name it, trust, and this is something that is nearby. But also there are ethical and privacy problems that are one of the most important, because sometimes you cannot use AI simply because you sign an agreement, you cannot share the data. Sometimes you will maybe create something that is, let's say, not qualitative in terms of intellectual property and whatever. And these are elements that you need to verify. Less people is struggling now about the ecological impact of the AI, but also the social value of the AI and the impact in relation, for example, to the job cut is something that is important, that is rising up. And also many people is trying to discuss about this. How people learns about AI, everyone thinks that AI is easy and everyone do by themselves. So do it yourself learning is the most diffused situation. And I do think this is something connected with the fact that AI was designed to be accessible. So because let's say the chatbot is the most accessible solution, but in reality, the real potential of the AI is not something that you can grab with do-it-yourself processes. The most diffused AI courses are on YouTube, and the 5 things you need to know on cloud design, and then when you learn, you will become rich. The reality is the fact that this will not change your life.
Or because you spent all the tokens.
Yeah. But
so people that were answering this question were using what type of AI tools?
These are the tools they are using. Here are the tools coming. Don't worry. This is a repository. So here, this is the only chart we share with you the variation in between the 2025 and 2026. You can see how rapidly and dramatically the AI world change, and I do think this is a picture that every 12 months is also not relevant, because in 6 months or in 4 months we passed from the fact that Figma was died, but now Figma is still alive again, just because they presented a new feature. Okay, but the interesting thing is that ChatGPT, that was the generalist option, but also the most diffused one, is rapidly, let's say, substituted by Claude. Anthropic is doing a really great job and whatever, but okay. Gemini is still rising up, or let's say it created an advantage because also the imaging system, Nano Banana, you can see, is one of the most used image generation, also video and whatever. Then there are Perplexity, Notebook LM, Lovable, and Firefly that are really a niche market, okay? Copilot, because every one of us or many of us that works in big organization is mandatory connected with Microsoft, we have to use it. But I don't know if someone of you like it. So, but we have to use it.
Raise your hand. Who likes Copilot?
You like
Copilot?
You like
Copilot?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
But
No,
like
we have it, but we don't like it.
Okay, but and here there is the Figma Make. That is one of the, let's say, this most discussed tools that people is adopting, and is let's say a newcomer that create a differentiation, and also that quickly overcome Lovable, that was, let's say, available before Figma Make, but without the remains, so the difference is so high. So these are the tools that people is using today. I do think this picture will not resist for longer. Maybe it has to be updated. For this reason, we will maybe think about having and maintaining a continuous let's say, research question open, and also to make this graphic maybe evolutive. Unfortunately, we don't have data about the cost and the real adoption, because many people say I use Claude, but then I ask Claude to only set my agenda, or doing let's say asking for the present to give to my best friend that has a birthday. But in reality, you know, these are really powerful tools that integrated with our journey change the things. When we move to the other tools, the ones of production, Figma was the only one in 2020-25, still remain alive, but he had, let's say, he passed from 91% to the 84%. That hidden percentage is a really important thing. As you can see, all the standard tools like Illustrator, Photoshop, and whatever, they decrease their role because the growing of the other things, but also because FigJam from 0 passed to the 36% in a while, having the same adoption as a Miro. So this is interesting. New generation of tool is rising up because the survey was dedicated to professional. Canva is not so diffused, but if you change it, target Canva today is one of the most diffused tools. All the students of secondary school, Italians, they use Canvas for free with AI, blah blah blah. And then this is also a problem when they arrive to the design school, because they do think that Canva is the solution, but in reality this is not. Okay, design remains for professional. Framer is really tiny solution. Adobe XD, we can say hello, because for sure bye and doesn't work anymore. I don't know, you want to add something with the tools? Or
no, I just was telling how our students never use Adobe XD.
No, they never used Adobe XD, but also Sketch and everything before. So they born with this generation of tools. Okay.
Yeah, just the last bunch of charts about the adoption of AI. The experience was declared as very positive by the majority, and we have some negative answers related to AI, and feels that maybe this is a better diagram. Feels like let's say the less satisfied with AI are the junior ones or the UI designers. The junior will emerge in the charts after. While of course UX researchers still adopt a lot of AI in their workflow, so basically they are pretty enthusiastic, and art director as well, because they use it for exploration. In the middle we have explorers. I think that this is because the variables which they operate are so different according to the organization, the budget, the scale, their specific task assigned to which they are assigned. So I think that this is still an intermediate but important because it's the most 33% stage of the AI development in the Italian market, where these, let's say, delivery-oriented figures are still experimenting with different tools and with different mix. There's some sort of challenge about displaying the AI stack you use on LinkedIn and other channels, and I think that this is part of it.
Yeah, it's interesting to see that the ones that is not, let's say, really satisfied about the adoption is the one that use AI to substitute their creativity. So doing graphics and UI in a proper way, asking AI to do it instead of you, is something that for sure cannot, let's say, satisfy the objectivity of the things. But in reality, the most interesting is the fact that maybe our director, they are really satisfied because sometimes they do some graphics that they think it's interesting for them, and something that maybe many of you knows, and maybe we will discuss in the.
So yeah, you can see that UI designers are very low, but because we noticed that UI designers basically are junior, so they become art director if they become more senior. And so there's this equation: junior struggling to entering the market and feeling their own profession threatened by AI introduction. So easy to see mix.
Okay, we will share with you the report as soon as possible. So we were planning to deliver it before the summer, so you can read it in your, let's say, in your relaxing time. We hope with an interesting thought for summer break. Okay, and this is all for this part, and then we can pass to the workshop.
Yeah, because before we have taken some time to map together the process of UX design as we saw it, of course. So, of course, it's been exploration also based on our experience and how we think of using AI and so on. It's very interesting to us to open it to all the public and have conversation on what do you think, how do you use the tools, where is the biggest value, where is the risks. So yeah, maybe we can walk step by step.
Yeah, definitely. The first thing to say is that this was made by us, and Oblo is a consultant, plays a consultant role. We play consultants as well. So you will notice that this process is pretty adherent to a consultancy perspective. And if we talk about a product company or other kinds of organization, the process may change, definitely. So this is the first thing that we need to say. So we started hypothesizing very briefly, and I'm so grateful for this moment because this is the first time that I see blank, let's say on paper, what we basically are analyzing. We started, let's say, standard process of facing a design challenge. And AI is playing a role since the beginning because I don't know if you noticed that, feel free to share your experience, but a lot of briefs are written by AI by the client itself. So you get this sort of RFPs that are some sort of Christmas wish list with a lot of bullet points, let's say, that play a realistic jargon of the profession. So you feel like you need to deliver all of that stuff. But then if you go investigate that brief, you can easily spot that this was AI generated, and you need to somehow brief the brief that you got to, let's say, reconduct the project to a perimeter that you can actually master.
Yeah, so someone of the, let's say, art director that we were discussing before, but also marketeer or manager, big manager, they say, okay, I need to do this application that I developed in one night, so please doing the project for me. So the problem is that today one of the main important challenges to understand which is the real need connected to the process, and in this case the AI play a strange role. It's let's say sometimes used by the client in a not proper way. We, as a designer, try to use AI to, let's say, deconstruct or rebuild or redefine in terms of technically is rebriefing the things, but this creates a friction that in the past the contract was something faster and precise also in the evaluation. Today there is a great friction. So before the project starts can pass many months. Roberta is it's maybe, let's say, showing us the things, and all the tools that we adopt is they are LLMs, standard LLMs. Everyone uses own one.
Let me be clear. I mean, the problem of counter balancing the brief has always been there.
Yeah.
As designers, we always have to counterbalance the brief. But as you can see, the risk is that now you have more redundancy, more density, and maybe it is also enforcing the biases of the client. It says, the LLM told me this. So they are already full with bias, and this is another, let's say, leverage into the bias creation process. So
yes, the risks are connected with the density of the things, and the redundancy present on the brief, and also the process that you start a project without a not defined pathway, and this is a problem for a company that live within the project they deliver, because the time, the intelligence, the creativity is the things we share. So in this case, the AI is, let's say, important, but the way people is using AI to write email, to frame brief, to create alternatives before going to a professional, it's something that dramatically changing the direction. Many of them are satisfied by the output, they just produce it because they are in charge for taking the decision.
Yeah, I don't know if some of you work in product companies and they see something similar in the way they get the requirements to work on. you want to share.
I do the opposite. I work for the Italian government, so my brief is usually a degree, basically, in order to understand what's written in the jargon law. We totally rely on AI to make it faster to understand, because there are like 10 pages of this article, this topic.
Because they use the agent to craft.
So also the lawyer use AI. Also lawyers and politicians use AI today to create, let's say, combinations that are not accessible to anyone.
The first engine I created was translate activities into a SOW.
Make it less clear, please.
Okay, but the things is interesting because sometimes we close a deal and the project starts. And sometimes, okay, and then the human action takes the floor. So there is the fine-tuning workshop and the brainstorming discussion in which also the junior of the agency take part and everyone start doing things. But AI, what is doing? Note taking and transcription. So what we are creating, a lot of data, information that we never use. Or maybe we use it in a not proper way, because sometimes we take the proper note about the things. We have a redundancy of the things, but also we have an explicit problem of privacy, because we need to establish also the rules about how we use the data, which is the, let's say, LLM that we can use or not, in relation also to the client that we have. I don't know about the Italian government, which is the privacy settings.
We have an enterprise license of Gemini, so whatever happens within the company stays private. But depending on the client, of course, during some calls, you just not use automatic tools.
Yeah, you cannot change things. You cannot use cloud to do things. Not formally. Okay, but don't care anymore. We are recorded, so no, we
don't use any. I hereby declare.
Okay, so here the things is, let's say, something that is connected with the content, but here we define the brief. So the interesting things is that when you start talking human by human, then you maybe simplify the process, and we verify, many of us verify that at the end the real decision is taken in a shared solution. The co-design practice also of the brief is one of the most important parts, because the client is committed, also the government sometimes understands why the digital payment is better than other things, and so we move there. Then,
talking about knowledge repository,
yeah,
I mean, what usually researchers do is to upload all the documents on Notebook LM, so they can start creating the repository. And the process here is human at first. You need to read the documents to have some at least fast experience to contextualize the information. Then you upload the documents on Notebook LM, and this is easy, an easy tool, and maybe a tool that you cannot avoid right now. Also privacy compliant somehow. We want to think that this is privacy compliant. And you can interrogate, Notebook LM. So this saves up some intermediate Slack chats or some emails with the client. So this is useful because it reduces some frictions in the process of exchanging information or recovering information for yourself as a designer.
Yeah, this speed up the process, also help us to share the data in between the team, and this repository usually is not open to the client because it's a working area. Many times it's private area in which also the LLM works in, let's say, reviewing also the technical things. So yeah. Then we go to research. You want to present the research? No. We follow. Okay, we go to the research, and we say there is a secondary research and primary research, and these are quite different, because in the secondary research, we need only to understand the context as a, let's say, designer. Sometimes we work in a field that we are not used to. We work many times with autistic people or impaired people, and you need to learn many things about stuff. So what let's say, the human does is cultural deep dive, and this is something that you can automatize, but you cannot automatize at all. And this is the most important part that will create also stimuli to generate the innovation that the algorithm is not capable to do by himself.
I think that this is an obligation of every designer to continuously nurture their consciousness of the environment in which they operate.
And this is typically connected with, I don't remember exactly the number you quoted before, but here there is the situation in which we move from the executive part to the strategic part, because you build up strategic by culture, by understanding, and also by proper interpretation about the project you are dealing with, especially if this process has a, let's say, a cultural impact. AI try to make the convergence connected and helps to define the research pillar.
Yeah, let's make an example about that. We call it a human AI collaboration because, for instance, you start a new project, maybe in a new field, and you want to get a quick overview about the state of the art. Of course, this is not something that you can consider research. This is just about a basic understanding. And maybe you can provide some pillars you want to be informed, okay, the usability of the services, the customer care reception, and you can have quickly, easily some sort of overview. You can use it as an overview, collaborating with AI at first. Of course, this is not an outcome, this is not the comprehension of the project, but this can be a tool to support your starting stage.
And this is connected with the activity that usually we ask the AI to do instead of us, or maybe to support us. That is the, let's say, the deep search, to do benchmarking, to go, let's say, for precise list of article or whatever to competitor. This is today remain deep research, and many of us use, let's say, Claude or the standard things. For sure, this can be also raised up as a level. We can create an agentic version of these things, and we can leave AI to do a lot of redundant research. But the problem is that the data they generate is so high that to, let's say, collect and reorder this kind of, let's say, data, it's a bit complicated to be addressed. And this is also a tricky situation, because I don't know how many of you use Python, or maybe knows how to code something, or use AI as a agentic field. So we are in an early stage of adoption, but also because we are trying to do by ourselves. We don't create agents, we do action using the AI, and this is something that don't utilize the 100% of the value, and this is not a substitutive task. It's an integrated task, it's a co-piloting of the things.
Thinking about agents, if you use Perplexity, you can actually launch an agent and perform some benchmark analysis for you. So if you are diverging, maybe using some tools like Perplexity that covers multiple models, can help you have a broad perspective. But once again, this is for the very early understanding.
Here, the main risk and the guardrail element is the ones that we need to control the hallucination, and also we need to refine the quantity of the information, the quality of the information. For this reason, so let's say the cultural deep dive is needed, especially if you talk about psychological element or legal element or many things. If you are not, let's say, confident with that, this became quite complicated. For this reason, many times in this case, we move toward the primary research, in which we put the human to human, or human to more than human. We need to discuss now with the one, but also we start with the primary research, in which we integrate the discussion within a possible user, but also expert, that will help us to create the full ratio of the things. Here there is a draft of the project, but also there is a discussion guide that will guide the interview process and the protocol of interacting with the human. This is the place in which we generate the difference. Because if you prompt the AI to deliver a project with the insight you get from the primary research, maybe you will face something that has no, let's say, quality in the execution, is quite average in the as a proposition, and is not innovative. Here we put this kind of parkour or something like a violet post-it. They are the junior into the organization, because you have seen how junior and senior have a different point of view about the AI. The senior are quite satisfied, they can control. Many times they have the cultural point of view to interact properly with the AI. Junior is a bit different. I do think here in oblo is interesting the way you combine the things because you let the junior practice the things. Formally junior, the ones that goes out from the university, this is also our mistake. They do think that with AI they can do everything. But in reality, when they realize that in the real world they need to discuss with someone, they need to verify, and maybe the results that we produce is not the perfect or the optimal, this is something that creates a friction. So in this case, the user and there's also the junior take part of on the review process, take part on the teamwork, and a junior say that is present in this room, but I don't want to, let's say, show off her face, but she say she never use AI to interpret let's say, interview results. This because she want to learn how to get the real and qualitative insight. And this is a matter of learning. So the idea is that AI will not substitute you in learning. AI will help you maybe in execution. And this is something important. The problem is creating what is the, let's say, science insight and the quality check. And the quality check, again, is something that has to be made or done by human. Here there are the most problematic things that are connected with the bias. Many AI produce itself biased outcome without any question asked to create a manager picture, and 99% is a man, maybe white, and whatever. This is quite boring. It seems the first era of AI nothing changed within this. And also the generalization is, let's say, the other corner is something that is relevant. In this case, the AI is, let's say, sometimes can be seen as a researcher that can deal with you in verifying something, suggesting, in reviewing the protocol, maybe in helping you do stuff. Many times is a domain expert when you use it properly for the, let's say, deep dive research and whatever. These beautiful cards are created by oblo and will, let's say, visualize but also synthesize many way or collaboration pattern that are identified in relation with the AI.
And we also added the junior because today with AI you can basically avoid somehow the note-taking aspect. Sometimes you should, but what happens when you have the time? What happens in a huge organization that maybe have, let's say, a narrow time span to run the interviews, and they avoid the junior from taking part to a learning movement like this one. And this is something that we noticed. We also debated about the creation of discussion guides. Should a junior believe that you can just prompt the broad scope of the project and avoid the very specific learning moment of choosing what to ask? Or should you just get into the creation and scout afterwards the discussion guide? This is something that we can discuss. We have different perspectives about that. And also as teachers, as trainers, we need to train people to run the right interviews the right way. So we have to necessarily make them question the investigation issues first. And then if they want, they can maybe generate AI generate a protocol.
Yeah, this is an interesting thing that is also connected with time. Okay, because we create here stages that seems like a dream, time and budget, but you know, they are correlated variables, so we need to talk about time. In your organization, how much time do you have for primary and secondary research? Think about the last project you had. Because here they share with me a number, and I was shocked by the quality they produce with these, let's say, numbers, but also the number seems coherent to me. So how many hours? Days?
Maybe percentage related to the full project.
Yeah, maybe.
I would say 5%.
5%?
Yeah.
Maybe not for them. It's a bit different. They are user research.
We have delivery projects.
Couple months.
Okay.
We have delivery projects which is probably 1%, 3 weeks over 1 year.
Yeah.
Or projects in
1
which
year,
is
really.
90%.
90%. Okay, so it depends. So it's path dependent. It depends from the project you need to create. In this case, we were discussing about let's say at least a couple of weeks for a standard project. And this is a dream because many times they give you a really couple of hours, or maybe for tomorrow I want to have a brief. Because we never discussed about outcome, and now we started thinking about outcome because the draft of the proposal, the idea, and the discussion guide are internal output. Here we have this augmented debriefing because it's the way you start thinking about the project and the way you start, let's say, moving toward the analysis. And here, big discussion comes about tools. So how many of you do or still create personas? Or maybe how many of you create archetypes or use archetypes? No one. Great. Journey as is. Okay. Opportunity area. Okay, many of you went through the opportunity. Okay, so this is interesting because it's a big discussion in between not only the, let's say, the design agency, but everyone say personas are not needed anymore. To me, this is quite fake because at the end they always relate with to a possible user, so we need to name it friendly coherently. I know that Roberta is fan about the archetypes. They are created before and they are reinforced during the process, and maybe this is more valuable as a tool for, let's say, creating the question, but we need really to discuss about the output we want to produce. The problem is that the personas are no more relevant because many people create personas with automated system and without any purpose. So they invented personas. But if the persona sees the results of a research process, maybe the personas remains or become relevant again. But here in the synthesis, there is the insight mapping. And the interesting things is that, let's say, it's ended the first block and the client come back to the floor.
Sorry, just one thing. Persona started to be irrelevant once design thinking was extended to organization. Because persona started to be created by marketing team and not the designer team.
Yeah, sure. This is incredible because design thinking changed the world, create a lot of job opportunity for few years. But now demonstrate the fact that the workshop is not enough because here there is a workshop, but there are a lot of delivery, and doing design is different than thinking design. We completely agree that we will share a kombucha together, but I don't want to go through because otherwise, because we are live. So, but this is also a problem, no? The problem is the ones about the noise we will create and the fact that the client will be part of this journey, and we need to convince the client about the thing. So if the tool is not perceived as qualitative by the client because the quality of the execution doesn't work, or maybe the credibility of the tool changed, we need to find a way to satisfy. So the deck become relevant, the way you show off your knowledge through benchmarking to other things is the way you made relevant the action. So this is the informed way of the project. This is the delivery. The first delivery we create is nothing about design, or maybe it's not a new design, but also is more important sometimes because create the alignment between your vision and the client vision. This is something relevant. And this happens into the ideation stage. Many times the ideation is generated within the client because in this way you can take faster decision and you can quickly arrive to, or maybe let's say, define an MVP that still remain, let's say, a marketing buzzword, but it's important because the way the client became also part of the project. In this case, also AI can help because can, let's say, help you in create a content and create some credible alternative. but also can give you a second opinion and can be seen as a sparring partner. So
yeah, and more structured platforms are emerging for this process. So there are some consultancies that already have developed their own native, let's say, knowledge repository of personas, of customer journeys. So they have their own, let's say, branded notebook LM to interrogate whenever they need to start a new project. This is an evolution of the old databases that a lot of huge organizations had of their personas, with pros and cons. Of course, the knowledge exchange is shared, but on the contrary, it is harder to innovate and it is harder to spot new trends in advance if you only rely on a well-structured knowledge repository.
So we made the research, we create an idea that is credible and also accepted by the, let's say, the user. We do the depth check. So we use the AI as a sparring partner to verify if we are, let's say, in the right direction, but also as a catalyst that help us in make the convergence in between all the actors. And then finally, we move toward the design stage. So UX come to the floor and you start creating the concept, but also this is something that we spend a lot of discussion. Today, what the AI allow us to do is a quick prototype that is, let's say, quite fixed, realistic and whatever, and this create the limit of the creativity process. So we do think that the paper prototyping and the teamwork on the project is more important than starting the prototyping, because we know directly that the prototyping stage can be speed up in a proper way. So in this way, we do UX, creating the information architecture, and in the past we were able to do the wireframing. Now we do the wireflow, and Davide maybe will present the difference in between.
Oh yeah, because of course, since now UI and UX are overlapping in terms of design systems already there, you can easily write code something. So when you reflect on user journeys, maybe it's easier and faster and more effective in the process economy to focus on wireflow. So just a big picture of the key screens and UX checkstones of the process, and then you can develop more, let's say, more quickly the final UI using AI to generate it, or just using already generated design systems. Yeah. I also have to say that up until there, as we noticed in our state of UX research, the integration of AI in the process is pretty structured and given for granted, because it's easy to monitor the effectiveness of these tools when introducing this stage. You have a supporting mechanism to transcribe everything. You can interrogate the knowledge repository. So it's easier to measure the impact and the effectiveness of these tools at that stage. Now that we enter the ideation stage, everything starts to be even more blurred, and everyone basically starts to develop their own workflow and their own AI stack. And this is why the situation is ever-changing and not yet established, because a new tool emerges every week, and there are also some barriers in the organization which you want to work to develop that specific workflow. You need to talk with other stakeholders, other departments, to make them all work about the tools that you want to use. So this is another complication, and this is why the situation here is more shattered than before, starts to become more shattered.
I don't know if you use which is the tool you use. In the past, many startups create tools for every one of these stages. There is the super mega personas, there is synthetic research, there is many things to create every one of these stages. What rised up also by the tools you have seen before in the research. Here there are the most generic LLMs, and everyone customizes and creates its own one without anything, and someone creates the more qualitative one. Here Figma comes to the floor, or the prototyping stage. So because
Figma, FigJam, of course.
There is FigJam, but today there is also Figma plus Code or Figma Make. Lovable is something that is used by someone that don't know how to design, or maybe that is satisfied by the things that Lovable produce. The problem is connected with let's say, the checkpoint are connected with the architecture validation, but also the feasibility of the action. So one of the things we see when we discuss about the students is the fact that they create a really wonderful, let's say, user flow, create incredible situation with a lot of data, and then you don't know how to generate this data, how to deal with the data, how to pay the system and the service working. So many times AI hallucinate also in creating options that are not feasible. So here the control, the cloche and the command control has to be taken, because then the project has to be realized or developed. These are projects in which there is a design agency plus someone that will develop, or a company that will develop by themselves. Okay, the delivery you do is the design part. For sure, it's different the fact that when you act as a designer into a, let's say, IT company or whatever, or a product company in which you develop. Internally, many times, many prototypes are still working prototypes, and what you deliver is constantly tested in a live session and whatever, so it became part of the team. So what we do to reinforce the project is let's say, the foundation. So we need to have a proper visual acculturation, and you see here we forced let's say, distinction in between UX and UI, not because we like the gray-white frame, but because we do think at first you need to define which are the real flow and the qualitative one, and then you need to mix this with the UI. We know that many, let's say, studios work directly with UI. If you know the client or you had past experience with the client, you have in your hand or the design system, and then it's more consistent and quick to work in UI. But in reality, if you, let's say, create a different and consecutive action in UX and in UI, you will create also value, because you will use a sort of visual acculturation. So you will rise it up again the cultural role of the designer that will orient coherently the project. You will create hero screens, and you will define the semantic of the pages and whatever, and then you will use Notion AI.
Yeah, no, because Notion AI was mentioned by a teacher of ours who was an art director in New York, and he used an agent to basically perform all the benchmark about different case studies that he needed to take to add to his own creative toolkit. We all, as designers, basically notice and spot something that is interesting. We save it for later so that we can already have the toolkit ready when we start a new project. And the agent can enforce this process. So it can somehow do the process for you and be an instructor, of course, about the pillars you want to monitor. So this is an example. And speaking about the foundation, this division that we made about semantic versus cognitive, when thinking about a design system is made of design decisions that eventually led to that design system. Design decisions need the human in it, because the human orchestrate the need for a specific, let's say, behavior that eventually will become a token. And then the token becomes something that is formatted as a variable in Figma. We call it the variable. And that part, the documentation part, is something that can easily be replaced by AI in the next future. I mean, right now there are some plugins that can simplify the job and fasten up the process. But as we can witness in our research about design to code, design system, and AI native design systems, you still need to properly document every component and create a very well documented code skill to have a reliable generative behavior when you prompt code to create a new screen out of an existing design system. And design system itself needs to be very well structured. So this is something that only very well structured organization can explore. And which is the contrary, the cons of this operation is that, of course, you have frictions in the organization itself, because developers don't want you as a designer to find a way to easily overlook their job, and also designers, junior designers are not worthwhile anymore if you can easily create a variation of the same screen, properly adopting the design system in the right way. We are talking with different stakeholders in the market right now. We are listening to their workflow. Their workflow are different. So everything changes according to the way they prefer to work. And so this is why this is where the overall overview becomes even more blurred in terms of best practices of introducing AI in the process.
Yeah, the problem is that design system helps you to control the execution, because in the executive phase, the human became the curator,
and the execution, the screen generator, the generation is given to AI. But if you don't have a proper, let's say, design system, if you don't define a proper user flow to follow, you don't have a proper UI with all the rules that are the basis of the design system, you will have problem in, let's say, developing the screen. In this time, this is the most quantitative part, and maybe is one of the fastest or the ones that had the benefit of the 10x or 20x, because you can, if you made the job in a proper way and you create all the rules, this can be really fast and adopted.
And the risk is inconsistency, because the risk here is that you can be very fast in creating new screens and new journeys, but they could be slightly inconsistent, because maybe they are consistent with the use case that you prompted, but not consistent with the overall organization, tone of voice, and already designed components.
Yeah, and the last part, but not least, is the user test, and we were discussing about it. We say that user test is needed many times during the process. For sure, the user research or the interview or the insight or the nidification has to be done in the front. But also, when you define the first user flow, it's relevant to have a user test session. So, or maybe a validated user flow within the user. So also qualitative way that this is relevant to create these changes. In this case, the user test, if it's only A/B test or validation about the different screen and whatever, becomes a bit more technical, and there are many tools that also help us in working. For example, the inclusivity processes or the, let's say, the way they are accessible, they can be tested by many tools. So in this sense, also here, there are tools. For this reason, we were thinking about the AI as an executor and a simulator, but also an inspector that warranty the quality of the outcome we produce. Let's say, we worked in reviewing the process and also discussing about the process, and we inserted a lot of, let's say, variable. We know this is not perfect. This is not the only one. Everyone produces its own one, and is really related to the organization you work with. But now we hope this will be an interesting way to start the conversation with you. Okay? So thank you, and we hope you appreciate it.
You stress three topics throughout the whole speech. One is the topic of tools. The other one is the tension between output versus outcome. And the other one is the topic of governance. You know what disturbed me the most tonight is that first question. Which activities remain ours if someone would quitting? My wife last project of meeting was completely planned in terms of color policy through ChatGPT, and that was awesome. I did a Polytechnico. I'm old enough to read a Polytechnico that made me purchase my first computer in the third year of Polytechnico.
I bought a fifth.
Exactly. So to me, I perceive this as a tool that is in our hand. We are speaking about the transition from the dark room to Photoshop. Some dark room operators will lose their job, but photo still exists and will advance. And this brings us to the output versus outcome. So 1 week and a half ago, I moderated a partner that was responsible of design and VLS of McDonald's, TomTom, Equinor, Orange France, and I don't remember, a few others. And this was the most emerged topic. The democratization of the outcome, of the processes. How do you generate value? You know, how do you understand and recognize value? And this is exactly the value of the designer. The value of the designer that becomes the gatekeeper. And understand what is valuable to produce rather than produce. The value of the eye that force a moment of rest, force a moment of thinking before acting, So in alignment with stakeholders, in alignment with the team, in alignment with the general. And then we don't open the Pandora box of DLX, because then all this specification becomes context and instruction for the machine to work. And then the governance is at least something that we need to teach. So the European Act, the similar European Act, so the European AI Act, the similar Act, for example, in the Middle East says every outcome should be vetted by a human. So the agent decided this. This is not an acceptable answer in 2026 still. But also the machine doesn't work like that. I run a project and don't know how to code. In 6 months I tried to code alone an application pretty complex. It's just expanding, adding agent, adding things. It is not convergent because you need to read those elements. There is a moment in which you need to read those outcomes of the internet. Otherwise, it's an output meaningless, but also throughout the process we work is just create nothing. The loop goes expanding. That is my personal experience.
Yeah, this is, we totally agree with these 3 points that are the more important, but these are also vision, let's say, given by our experience. And the fact that AI is more than a tool. And especially with the one that works in the AI era or that became professional in the AI era, the problem is that they don't have the basics. So the photographer were able to grasp the right light and the right moment, and then with the digital, they evolve. But if you start with digital, you just ask someone to do the things instead of you. And you need to control the quality, and the quality with the digital don't rise it up. Many times decrease it. So the artistic picture and the qualitative things is accessible, but not natural. So the problem today is also the way we need to, let's say, balance the real potential about these intelligent systems and the human capability to bring the system to the right position and role, to control them in a proper way, but also to enhance things. In many fields, AI is producing qualitative and incredible results, but they are maybe more engineering stage. So for sure, which remain our roles, we will remain designer. And as for the architect, when the CAD was invented, they don't stop thinking about the quality of the project. They had a tool to create a more complex solution, ZADI, without CAD, where it's possible to, let's say, the architecture of ZADI, where it's possible to be realized. Also, if in the past someone created the DOM without the AutoCAD. So these are things that we need to discuss, but sure, and this is important. The most important quality is generated when the human action part is highlighted. Many times, sometimes also the client is part of this because we need to simplify a bit the solution. I agree with you that AI produce intelligence for intelligence. So it's something that is like a spiral, no? Every time they create something new, but if you don't have the capability to control, the system doesn't work. For this reason, Ford went back to normal, let's say, asking 360 engineers to come back because they realized that they cannot automatize all the features. So to me, this is a moment in which there is a great illusion and also a peak of, let's say, hype in relation to the technology. Then when this will become standardized, and then when the real cost will be part of this journey, maybe some organization will rethink the balance in between the stuff.
Yeah, the problem is what happens when they will wake up from this illusion, because layoffs are happening. This is happening. I'm pretty convinced that they will discover they threaten the organization's capability by introducing AI in that way. with no designers advocating for time to rest, for enabling the decision-making process. But who is in charge to decide whether the quality is acceptable? Because the design is about quality, and I was talking to a lot of alumni maybe working in consultancy, and they complain about the client as well, accepting plausible and mediocre synthetic research just to make the process go forward, and that's it. I think that this is the reality of things. So who's in charge to advocate for the quality? Maybe eventually the market will, and just like we are starting to see bad reports from customer care where all services introduce a full AI process, maybe this will make leaders change their mind. But if designers are not leaders, this will be hard. And the only way to gatekeep up until today was the craft. So we ran our decisions through craft, using craft to gatekeep. Now we don't have craft anymore to gatekeep. And we need to foster the design maturity with other means, more cultural means.
Is this something you treated on the search? Because this point is very interesting. Hallucination and error are now accepted on any layers, any moment of this process. From the beginning, you mentioned before, on the data brief, till the end. I mean, people are paying a fraction of the cost just because this process is new, and they accept errors. It's okay. Everything pretty much works. So, what's the problem? As a designer, we treat errors as in a very ideological way. No, this is not acceptable. But the truth is that
you want to go through the detail. You don't stop.
We want to go to detail because this is the proof that our work still matter. And when we see that for the 200 people are coming back to work, we say, time for us. We still
we are still alive. We are human.
Even though I think designers have been much more.
Yeah, that's very nice. But the truth is that it's just not true because consumers are accepting errors. I'm watching a TV, any possible commercial, knowing that it's created by AI, and I don't care anymore. I mean, I don't care to 6 months ago. But the point is, will come a moment where consumer and everyone will not accept anymore, or at least they will judge company or agency that do work in a different way, and they will start to say, I like it actually, maybe I want the other one. But now that the real question is, in the company for the last 2 years, we didn't care about how we use AI. There were no rules. Everyone can do whatever they want. But now leaders are starting to ask, should we have some rules on where we give the knowledge, where we need to verify the quality? And we identify part of the activity where we need to define what's the level and where we want to keep the levels, because we are scared at some point we lose competencies, lose skills. People are going to ask back for quality, and we don't know anymore how to do it. Because it's clear the gap between junior and senior, and it's going to become bigger and bigger, and then at some point we cannot merge the gap. So the question is, in the agency or company you work, are you establishing rules on how to use AI, or is completely freedom without no rules at the moment?
We were listening to Roberta podcast last time, and the most recent survey on the topic is that it was for Switzerland, for which roles related to AI are hiring only senior people. That starts to be a trend.
We are more than senior, no? But apart from this, rules are relevant, but also the first way of adoption normally is something free and not controlled. But now the relevance and also the better quality of the outcome, it's something that is starting in letting the organization thinking about the quality. We in Polytechnic, we introduced in design courses, we introduced a course of AI for design. And it's not about tools, it's about how the AI think, because you need to understand how the AI think to know the limits of them, and then the ethics and adoption, but also the ethics on declaring the co-designing within the AI. So today, the commercial that use AI maybe today is not, let's say, obliged to, but in the next future they have to put, say, made with. So when you see the commercial about Apple, you see made with iPhone 5 or 15, I don't know, or 15, 17, I don't know which is the number now. So the problem is that we need to establish a proper also ethics in adoption, and we ourselves, we don't need to stop thinking because we have the AI, but we need to reinforce the thinking to, let's say, cooperate with the AI in creating something new, because otherwise we lose our capability. So the NGO, no, the world nations declare that the first time ever, let's say, humans lose, let's say, cerebral capability thanks to AI, or thanks to the digitalization of the tool. In Swedish, they went back, they were digitalizing all the learnings and they were using tablet for everything. Now they are back, they are going back to paper because they realized that let's say, the first graduated now with this generation of fully digital learners, they have different skill, different capability and reduced capability to be adapted. I don't know which is the real benchmark, but you have many true things in your description. The one is that the user don't care about the quality of the outcome you produce. It cares only of the affordability. That is a word way to adopt it, but the right balance of price and benefit. And if they use it once, they are more. Why? Because they don't trust about the qualitative experience. So they are using now. People don't repair, don't replace, but they change. Why? Because the market gives you opportunity. This is a consumistic approach that has to be changed. So how many of you is wearing recyclable clothes or maybe sustainable produced goods? So these are elements of culture. At the moment, the only culture we know is the money. And the user goes to the, let's say, the money direction. What costs less is more interesting than the other one. Look at the, let's say, Chinese vehicle that goes around in Europe, not the ones that are in China, but that goes around Europe that don't have the radio. So this is quite crazy, the situation. So this is the point. So we need to create the right culture. We cannot pretend that the user will follow this situation because this happens always in the history. All the design product became icons and niche product that but create, let's say, let's say, copies and emulative processes that were reproducing a better quality of the living. The way we live, the way we do our stuff. So, which is the role of design? Is creating the front-end solution or is creating the average or the democratic version?
I think that every time I attend this design convention, let's say, or meeting, designers are pretty aware, pretty mature. They are exploring, they are experimenting, they are pretty ethical aware. So the problem to me is more, let's say, governance, about governance, top to bottom governance. We need to be enforced and supported by top to bottom governance, in my opinion, about AI. And top to bottom governance to me is not only on the side of the organization, because the organization struggles in the market as well, but to me on a policy making level. This is my take.
Yeah, but in this case, there is also a sort of competition about point of view. I had a meeting with the colleagues that Marco knows in China. They say, unfortunately, you will be late always in comparison with us for two reasons. The first one is we work 996. You know what does it mean, 996, right?
Very slow.
From 9 to 9, 6 days a week. And we have no problem or nothing to deal with privacy. So we use all the data we have and we produce much more data than we need, but we use it properly. So we will be fair front in dealing with AI and creating better system because we work a bit more than you. And if you realize we work 40 hours, 36, 32, smart working, blah, 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 they work 9 to 9, 6. And they don't have privacy problems. So if you are delivering with the new services or an application or a dashboard to things, you don't have any limitation. This is not coherent because they are using your data without any compliance, everything. I do trust that the European legislation in that is interesting, but this ownership of the data, which advantage given us? You cannot buy the new smart glasses by Ray-Ban because the system is not working here. You cannot use the AI by Apple, that is not by Apple, but is, let's say, given by the agreement they made with the most important operators, because in Italy cannot be used. So also legislation sometimes has to think about the direction we need to take. So the protection itself is not relevant. Also the Pope said we need to save the human stage of this, but they don't say that we need to not to use it. It's the Pope.
Yeah, the Pope already.
No, the Pope brought the. So this is crazy.
I'm talking about policy, not
policies. Is,
some between.
If you go through the encyclic, if you go, government is government.
But if we design for improving the people's quality of life, should we arrive to a quality that no one wants? I mean, if a European citizen doesn't want that kind of quality of life, should we necessarily align ourselves to that kind of?
Yeah, that comes also to the measurement that we were saying, like what we are measuring, because in fact measuring quantity, because also on the productivity there are studies in between, like which are the countries which have higher productivity, and China is not necessarily the one that has productivity. It's like they work a lot, but it doesn't mean that they quality and like the productivity.
Trust me, as a user, I don't live in China. But as a user, when you go to a restaurant and you leave your, let's say, money pocket or let's say a mobile phone on the desk, and then you go back after 1 hour and you found things there, or someone that comes to bring it back to you. So the safety you perceive is something completely different. I know that they are struggling with this safety because the reverse point of view is the control.
Exactly.
No, and I know, and I don't know as a human. I don't have the capability to verify which is better. But the fact that you can leave your motorbike or you can do whatever things and no one is judging you and everything is super safe, this is because data. And they use also our data.
Now we are entering a personal trade.
So this is an ethical point. I don't want to force you in going in one direction. But here we are discussing if we can wear the watches going around Milano. Last week, one person was, let's say, come si dice coltellare? Stamped. Thanks, I learned. Sorry for my English. Okay, it was stamped by another one that were not knowing anymore, and then say, okay, wow, this was wonderful. Next time I will have the opportunity, I will do it again. So come on, guys. So this is
going a bit off the topic.
Nevertheless, the topic of quality we did before is still that a purely European perspective.
Yeah.
Because outside, so lowering and barriers of entrance, producing good enough product for the eye, because it is just good enough, is good for everyone. And working in North Africa, every ADV between the matches is AI produced and came back here. And we just said that the jingle of the World Cup is that news. All the rest is the highly tailored advertising.
The problem is who pays and who produces these things, how we survive as a human on this situation. In China, they create also a way to survive that I don't know how much democratic is, and maybe it's not. And this is something that we will discuss. But okay, we are moving to too much ethical things. So if we want to go back to design, Marco.
Yes, going back to the topic we were talking about, the junior profile, the gap between the junior and the senior, the leader. I would like to ask for a perception from your side. Also, going back to your initial slide, the beautiful slide where you mentioned the different trends, where you had the AI, it will make faster the execution, but will not substitute the strategic thinking or tools, something like that. I really like those beautiful words. And so the question is, whether you perceive that the junior profile now should be more senior profile, because at the entry level,
since the execution will be fast, will certainly done by AI. So the strategic thinking should be a property and a skill of the junior advisor more at the senior level. What is your perception, whether you would agree or disagree or something different? It seems that you agree.
I totally agree. I mean, something we were discussing in another situation, but at the end, I think also leadership should evolve according to the strategic power you have. So this is the biggest shift that I see in leadership. The paradox that I see there is, and the question is, how do we cultivate this type of strategic perspective? Yeah. So how do we evolve the way in which we work together, in which we train and cultivate and competence?
Yeah, it seems to me that the set of competences that the design and the new product design should have seems to go more in this direction rather than just skills, practical skills and tools. And more, because when you are recruited, then you need to go along with the chief leader and make this decision, take a decision with the critical thinking on that. So, thank you for the introduction. That was really knowledgeable.
Yeah, this is an interesting things we are discussing, but the way we are used to think about, let's say, evolution of a cultural profile, like a designer that is not a professional, that is a cultural actor for us in the Italian tradition, is the fact that we need time and experience. But today, generation have less time, because if you need to become quickly, let's say, professional or strategic or leader, how we train leader without practical skill or without practice? Because we are cultural agent in a practice base, because we create culture through product, to service, to experience. If you don't train ourselves in doing that, which is the value we can create? Because the risk we generate is the fact that we become a great generalist, like a marketeer, like a strategist, like an engineer, I don't know. So which is the core value of a designer? You are a designer, right? Which is the core value of a designer?
Translate.
Yeah, maybe. So let the other see the picture. Vision.
Complex.
Sense making.
Yeah, but these are all strategies of translation. Translating something means that you need to know the context, the culture, and both the languages to translate, and also to let the other understand what you translate, because you need to simplify. Some LLM is able to translate. But you say sense making. To create this kind of meaning is something complicated, really complicated, and is not for all. So one of the discussion we are having is how we do this with 19 years old students that are social media bombed. Because here the problem is this. So if you look the statistic about the museum visits, or also the culturals or the cinema, you see many dinosaurs going there. Few young generation that if go there is doing a TikTok. If they go to the cinema, I've seen many people, let's say.
Well, actually, a lot of Gen Z are bringing the authorship.
Okay, this is great. So this is the picture I want to know.
Yeah. Also, they don't want to use AI and so on. So yeah.
Someone is criticizing. Someone is criticizing the system.
Yeah.
Okay, really.
No, we had a 16-year-old in the office a couple of weeks ago.
Legally, right?
For alternanza scuola lavoro, which is high schoolers coming for a week in working, and they were asking her if she was using LLMs or things like that, and she told us that actually it was her grandpa using them a lot, like a lot, and it was funny to us because like indeed We were expecting a completely different answer, and instead it was just a grandpa
this is
going crazy with ChatGPT.
One provocation, because after the two words that you mentioned, I totally agree, because are all related to people and the user. And at the same time, I think that there are two kind of two moments of the consumer. When you buy a product, when you use the product. Using the product is gonna be still human, so keeping the human at the center is still a thing. But at the same time, more and more, the who is gonna buy the product is gonna be partially filtered by machines. So understanding how to translate to machine is gonna be a bigger part of our work as a designer. So that's an interesting point of view, because we are avoiding this conversation that is happening. So understanding how to translate for human on the use, but also part of the decision is going to be done by algorithms, robots, and machines.
We are all influenced.
It's not given that also the use is going to be made by humans. I mean,
in services is easiest, these things, but in product, sometimes, okay, there are also non-human, if you say pet and other species, but it's
no, but still, like digital products for digital products.
Digital products, there are many non-human using the
So agents are going to be part of the decision as a consumer as much as we are. That's a fact.
Yeah.
It's that fact.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe not. They will liberate us from many decisions to make, liberate time, and so on.
I think it's related on which part of the process we agree on fully automated. Because to be honest, at the end, we'll be ashamed.
Designing my opinion already with the Zara newsletter. I bought these shoes because Zara sent me a newsletter. You like black shoes.
These are perfect. These fits your habits.
He said, you get me.
And it's the first pair of black shoes.
I didn't remember
like pizza. That's why I want.
Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah, sure.
Like, we are going for the young people. We are thinking about what design is, what designers are, or what is special, right, about that. I'm answering to the previous question.
Yeah.
And we are looking into the epistemology of design. And so when you go to the fourth stage, already the third one with, well, let's go to the fourth one that is completely out there of evolutionary learning. Now that a human can do, and especially has a lot of value when it's dealing with other humans. So is the human-to-human relationship, and working, trying to, last year we had this very diverse class with all 5 continents present, and everybody, we had designers, architects, AI, I call that AI people.
Expert or something.
Yeah, 22 expert.
Yeah, Marco is saying that he will create the leader. He will create the leader.
He has been. He has been.
Yeah.
Me too. No, now. So we had marketing, all bachelors, like no, they're nice people too. Come on.
Okay, at 22, but when they become older, they become dangerous.
Engineers, anything, right? And really working for, I think, a whole semester on epistemology, on thinking in action. So what it means to be a designer. I don't care what you do, from houses to services. I really don't care. It's about how you know the reality. It's about cognition. So we went there, and we could see that AI got curved and contextualized in a very interesting or different ways.
and then people were talking about the Swedish model, or the, right, what you were saying before, and the Australian new law and those other things, because they actually see it, and they don't, and they came to me and said, but Prof, now that, but we don't know what to do because we lack experience. So there was a process of, we know how to do a lot of things, but at the end we cannot choose. We don't know what to do. We don't know what to choose. There was that a lot, and they were very, very happy about the epistemological work because they have recognized what is special about them, and they are applying in their own thing, using the AI tool.
Yeah, sure.
From a different perspective. So epistemology.
Yeah, epistemology is a great way to become aware about the situation and also about the possible, let's say, future and status. This kind of, let's say, knowledge acquisition or also consciousness is something that is not really common, and we need to find a way to make them, because now the disillusion is higher than the proaction. I do think no one of us were aware about the future, because the future is something that you need to build up. And you need to build up with your knowledge in the society you are. The future is not something that happens without you. And for this reason, one of the most compelling situations with young generation today, we don't have the future. You have a better picture than us, and we are a generation with a lot of problems. Come on. So maybe we are using a different lens of understanding these things, and we need to create more autonomous thinking, and epistemology is the way we can create these autonomous things. But I don't know if they will be asked to do the same things when they will enter the real world. Because the real world and the job...
Oh, they are also, the guys I was talking about, came all after working.
Yeah.
So they do have a bachelor, some of them already have a master in something else, and then they come to us with the work experience to do another step.
Yeah, because they realize that they don't have, let's say, maybe the work experience is not exactly what they were expecting, or they don't, let's say, perform in a... Today we had a meeting with a headhunter, with the, let's say, top 25 students in our school. This headhunter is a headhunter for, let's say, luxury brand and whatever. And we have had the chance to see one of the most conflictual lecture I ever seen. Because the student expectation were the ones, okay, I don't know what to do. They are asking creative people that has the direction, that is trusting a bit more in their capability and their opportunity to act. Now there is a disillusion. We cannot revert the pollution status. We cannot change the economical dynamics. We cannot ask Trump to stop the world because he will decide every morning to do everything. So it's clear that their future is a bit more problematic. But in reality, they have a lot of tools to become more creative than in the past. So startupper today, in a faster way, they can produce things. Also, if they don't know how to code, they can produce a full services, and this happens. But why we don't talk about this? And we talk about, oh, everyone has to go to the psychologist because they don't know how to survive in this fucking life with social media. And we are scrolling social media every day. The average hours about teenager in Italy is 6 hours.
Yeah, but why we're scrolling? Because someone designed it. Well.
Yes, the problem is the design. The problem is the sexy design they create. Because if you see the movies about Jan Spalter in the abstract, it's interesting because they say, okay, I create Instagram, but now I'm not in line with the marketing
they've done and the way Instagram is becoming. So I'm really lucky or happy to see that billion of people every day use my app. But in reality, I'm personally and ethically compelling with the situation they create. So the problem is not because sometimes design fails, but many times design is also integrated to other parts of and many times the business side that create, let's say, an aggressive perspective. And to me, it's not the designer that can say, please stop. Design is a responsibility, but it's a shared responsibility. We cannot say that design is always as a dark situation, because otherwise, so one of the, we can say are great things. In Italy, the average age is 84 and increased 10 years in the last 5 years. So come on, something's good we are doing thanks to AI, thanks to better medicine and way of life. So we need to see the picture in a proper way. So if a teenager or 18 people say, I don't know what to do for the future, this is normal, but I don't have idea, I don't have a trust or feeling within the future, this is problematic.
Well, that's where, of course, the all together with the social media design and the education are coming together. But yeah, that's again a complex topic that we need to resolve today.
We need also to control the social media and also the adoption. I don't know, some one of the country, Australia says 16, you cannot use social media before 16.
Not only Australia, many are going.
So wow, but they realize now. Why? Because the problem they create.
They declare, those with America is going to declare the algorithm as addictive as well.
Sure.
And Australia had only 20% of reduction over just 3 months of that. So
yeah.
Yeah,
there are also, of course, designers that need to work with that together.
Yeah.
Well, that's the.
Okay, so
a lot of things that we covered.
Wow,
that's
yeah.
Thank you. It was incredible. But,
maybe we continue with the nice.
Any suggestion by you? Because
and other refreshing drinks.
I need to try the other kombucha first.
Exactly.
We need to close the circle of kombucha.
Yeah, actually, we still have some posters to ask final provocative questions about like which activities remain ours, which do we want to hand over, how do we call this role and work we do it all. That's something that we can do here in studio, and also we share the Miro, so if people who follow us online can also go and check the map that we did, and also there were the posters and the exactly you can put your opinion on what have you got from this discussion and what should we be doing. And yeah, thanks to everyone who participated today, and both online and here. That was the 20th Serves and Meets.
Bene.